God is love, and his matchless love, manifested toward fallen man in the gift of his beloved Son, amazed the holy angels. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. He was the Father's appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. He was the brightness of his glory, and the express image of his person. And he upheld all things by the word of his power. He possessed divine excellence and greatness. It pleased the Father that in him all fullness should dwell. And Christ thought it not robbery to be equal with God, yet he made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. The Son of God consented to die in the sinner's stead, that man might, by a life of obedience, escape the penalty of the law of God. His death did not slay the law, lessen its holy claims, nor detract from its sacred dignity. The death of Christ proclaimed the justice of his Father's law in punishing the transgressor, in that he consented to suffer the penalty in order to save fallen man from its curse. The death of God's beloved Son on the cross shows the immutability of God's law. His death magnifies the law and makes it honorable, and gives evidence of its changeless character. From his own lips is heard, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." The death of the divine Son justified the claims of the divine law. In order to more fully realize the value of redemption, it is necessary to understand what it cost. In consequence of limited views of the sufferings of the divine Son of God, many place a low estimate upon the great work of the atonement. The plan of redemption, embracing the good news of salvation through Jesus Christ, was first preached to Adam. It was to him the star of hope, lighting up the dark and dreaded future. Adam saw that Christ was the only door of hope through which he could enter and have life. The plan of saving sinners through Christ alone was the same in the days of Adam, Noah, Abraham, and every successive generation of those who lived before the advent of Christ, as it is in our day. The patriarchs, prophets, and all the holy martyrs, from righteous Abel, looked forward to a coming Savior, in whom they showed their faith by sacrificial offerings. At the crucifixion, the typical system of sacrifices was done away by the great antitypical offering. The sacrifice of beasts shadowed forth the sinless offering of God's dear Son, and pointed forward to his death upon the cross. But at the crucifixion, type met antitype, and the typical system there ceased, but not one jot or tittle of the moral code was abrogated at the death of Christ. The Son of God is the center of the great plan of redemption, which unit plan covers all dispensations. He is the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. He is the Redeemer of the fallen sons and daughters of Adam in all the ages of human probation. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Christ is the substance or body which cast its shadow back into former dispensations. And when Christ died, the shadow ceased. The transgression of the moral code made the shadowy system necessary. And at the death of Christ, which event had been shadowed forth by the blood of beasts from the time of Adam, these offerings, and not the law of God, the violation of which had made them necessary, were abolished. The gospel preached to Adam, Noah, Abraham, and Moses was to them good news, for their faith embraced a coming Savior. A more clear and glorious light now shines upon the Christian world. For in the Jewish age, the cross cast its shadow away back to the time when Adam left his Eden home. That which was faith to the ancients who lived before Christ is assurance to us, as we see that Christ has come, as foretold by the prophets. It is as essential, no more so, and no less, that we have faith in a Redeemer who has come and died or sacrificed, as it was for the ancients to believe in a Redeemer to come, whom they represented by their typical sacrifices. The Son of God, in becoming man's substitute and bearing the curse which should fall upon man, has pledged himself in behalf of the race to maintain the sacred claims and exalted honor of his Father's law. His work and mission was to convince men of sin, which is the transgression of that law, and through the divine mediation, bring them back to obedience to his perfect law. The Father has given the world into the hands of Christ, that through his mediatorial work he may completely vindicate the binding claims and the holiness of every principle of his law. This ends our reading for day 1 of the Thoughtful Hour series. For those of you wishing to stay on for the comments, we will begin it shortly. But for those of you who are moving on to read other things or to pray, thank you for listening, and see you on day 2.